Alrighty, I think we're actually good to go. Who know, who knows? I'm just gonna switch over to the studio. Okay, we should be good. Can anyone see? Well, hopefully everyone can see slash hear me. I'm gonna quickly run some additional tests here just to make sure everything is all hunky dory. Can we see what is essentially the back end? Okay, yes, I can screen share. Okay, perfectly. That's good. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm just gonna give it a couple of minutes just for a few more people to filter in, and then we will kick everything into gear because I do actually have something of a not itinerary. What's the thing you do at a meeting? Goodness, I forget. That word. You can tell I haven't had much coffee yet today. An agenda. That's the word I'm looking for. I have an agenda for today's live stream because I just knew that if I did the first live stream for this channel without an agenda, it was going to turn into a multi-hour rambling, which some people would probably love, but I actually need to talk about things and clear some stuff out and explain what the plans are for the channel in the future. So, yes. Agenda, yes. Everyone got it before I did. Oh my goodness. Oh, all right, what are we looking at on the numbers here? Okay, so stream is good, internet is good. How's the video quality? Because I accidentally left it on the default bitrate, which is pretty low. It's at a 2500 KB bit. I thought I changed it to 8000. Stream. Oh, I think YouTube's overridden the OBS settings, which is unfortunate. As someone who's recently moved house, I can see your pain from the past year or so. Oh my... yes, the moving house thing is going to be a discussion on this stream today, because, oh my god, is it just... Yeah, the saga isn't finished either, so, you know, that's going to be fun at some point in the future. But at least for the medium term, I am at least situated here now. Hence the pretty wall of stuff, the modeling pile of shame in the corner, which will eventually get built once I finish setting up the modeling station in this corner here, in what is a ever-shrinking room. Kind of fuzzy for me, but I think it's on my end. It could be on your end. I was having issues with fuzzy video earlier on, but I think that has been fixed up. Actually, here, let me dial in the... There we go. Okay, I've just adjusted the camera a little bit. Alright, I think we have been... The photo in the back is sick. Oh, thank you. Yes, I took that at the Pacific Air Show last year. Unfortunately, it was cancelled this year because it should be on in a couple of weeks. But because of all the erosion that we had down at the Gold Coast from a cyclone that came down here at the start of this year, they've had to cancel the air show. But I took that photo last year. It was pretty much the last photo of the day, and I'd been waiting and waiting and waiting for the moon to pop up. Because the day before I'd been at the air show, but I arrived late, and I saw as we were driving in the F-35 and the F-18s flying around, and the moon was in the background, and I thought, oh, that would make a really good photo, and I just pessimistically thought the moon wasn't going to show up again the next day, because obviously, you know, lunar cycles, timing, etc. And for 95% of the air show, there was no moon, and it just happened that the F-35 was the last thing on that day. And just as it was doing its final set of passes, the moon just comes up from the haze on the horizon just enough. And the F-35 came around for two last passes, and on one of them I was just glued to it with the camera, and I just saw it go bang in front of the moon. And that was one of the shots that I got, and I am hoping to sell some prints of that because I'm really proud of it. But yeah, it's currently my vanity piece on my wall, although there are some other photos I've taken though that I want to get printed as well. So yeah. Anyway, welcome to the first live stream of the channel. I'm very new to live streaming, as you can probably already tell, so this is going to be something of an improv job today. I have gone in with an agenda, which I have on my other screen here to keep me from rambling on too much, but the purpose of today is just to give everyone an update on what's been going on, announce some plans for the channel in the future, and just have a quick chat with everyone, because live streaming is something I've wanted to do for a really long time, and now that I have the time and the office space to do so, I thought, hell, why not start now? So anyway, you're also going to see me drinking a lot of water today, because this house isn't the most insulated of places, and my computer essentially acts like a glorified space heater right next to me. That's what happens when you've got two GPUs in the one tower. It's just a flaming inferno of death. So, what I'm going to do is bring up my notes on what I want to talk about today. And to keep things organized and to stop me rambling, I'm going to do what so many people like doing on live streams, and that is to display my talking points in PowerPoint presentation. Now, these are not pretty, they're very rough and basic, but it's just going to be used to help keep me on track. I'm going to quickly switch over, and hopefully everything's going to be still there. You should still see me, but you should also still see the PowerPoint presentation as well. Fingers crossed, anyway. Thanks to your channel, I'm now knee-deep, or rather, my model kit stash is now overloaded with fairy swordfish and Kyushu Shinden kits. You know, I really want to get a Kyushu Shinden, but I don't have one in my pile of shame yet. I've actually reduced my pile of shame recently. I've donated a few kits and sold some on, but that pile is going to eventually get built at some point, maybe. All right, so that is definitely an airplane. Yes, it is. It is a Hamden, and as per the title on the PowerPoint slide here, where have I been? What's been going on? What's been happening? Well, as more tenured viewers of the channel may have noticed, the video schedule for the past 18 to 24 months has been chaotic, to say the least, and that is because I've been away far more than I would like from both home and YouTube work in general. That's a combination of a couple of different factors, all of which kind of piled on top of each other, and has resulted in an upload schedule that has been completely unpredictable and often filled with very wide gaps. First, the big thing that really impacted things was about, what month are we in now? August. So about 16, 13, 14 months ago, I took a job, a contract job, which was full-time, something that I'd wanted for a really long time. It was 12 months with the option to extend, ended up only being just shy of 12 months, actually. But that job was in the aerospace industry. It was really good. I had a lot of fun. It was a case also of the grass is a bit green on the other side. Like, there were some aspects of the job that I did not enjoy at all. The biggest one was there was a lot more invasion of my out of work time by the job than I thought, and that really impacted my ability to produce content for the channel at a quality that I want to see. And so, especially for chunks of last year, there were some big gaps in the channel where I was uploading maybe one video a month, if that. There was also a pretty big gap when I moved house, because when I took the job, I had to move for the job, and I had to go from living in rural Australia to moving right into the heart of a major city, which for one is a huge lifestyle change, and two is a large, like, geographically a large move. You know, like, even though I'm still within the same state, Australia is big enough that it's like, you know, the move that I did was the equivalent of, say, moving from London to Germany or Poland or something like that. You know, it's a pretty big move geographically. So that was expensive, time consuming, and finding a suitable rental in the city that I'm currently living in was not fun, because for those of you who live in Australia, you know, the rental availability right now is not good. So it was a lot of stress. It was a case of couch surfing. Half the time I was living in a hotel, half the time I was in my parents' spare bedroom whilst I was trying to find a place, and thankfully I eventually did, and I of course paid through the nose for it. I was paying about 20% above what my maximum allocated budget was for rent, so that wasn't fun, but it was literally the only place I could get, so I had to take it. And that was around this time last year in August, and that's sort of when the uploads started again. I applaud you, man. Like, there's, yeah. Moving to a city wasn't like, I mean, I've lived in and out of big towns and cities most of my life. Like, living rurally was a novelty for me. I do miss a lot of it. I miss the quietness. I miss being far enough away from my neighbors that I would need to telephone them to actually speak with them rather than just look outside and say hello. But I'd be lying if I said I also haven't enjoyed greatly the conveniences of living back in a major city. The one thing I don't like is the driving conditions. You know, I love driving. The car that I own, I bought specifically because I love driving. I wanted a car that could do long distance drives really well. But driving through the middle of a city is a nightmare, so I tend to avoid driving down here as much as I possibly can. So it's more of a weekender these days than it is a day-to-day, unless I need to potter down to the shops for something. So yeah, moving house and getting that job affected my ability to create content. And as such, the video upload schedule went out of the window, basically. You know, when I started this channel, and for the first 18 months to almost 2 years, there was a very consistent upload schedule, as a lot of people will probably remember, and that evaporated at the end of 2023, early 2024. But that wasn't the only thing that affected the amount of content that I was sticking up on Rex's Hangar, and the other one that really affected things is more of the human side of stuff. And that was good old-fashioned burnout. Now, let me just make sure that that's actually loaded up properly. Oh, no, I've lost the YouTube chat now. Come back. Hang on. There we go. I need to pin that. So, yeah, the other thing that obviously really kicked in as, I would say, like, towards the middle of last year, but possibly as early last year, and that's a horrible way of saying things. I'm not good at public speaking, as you can probably tell, but burnout was a big thing that kicked in. Juggling a full-time job, YouTube, and moving and then living in a very busy city completely burned me out, both physically and mentally. Like, to say I was burning the wick at both ends would be the understatement of the century. I think I was probably doing, you know, I was trying to do YouTube and research work in the morning before work. I would then do a full day's work, and then I would try and do channel stuff in the evening, but then obviously also work, you know, focus on social life, hobbies, families, that sort of thing. So I think for a lot of last year, the average day I was operating on about 5 hours sleep and about 2 hours downtime, and the rest of that was essentially work, be it either for the channel or for the job that I was in at the moment. I managed for a while running on a diet of basically pure caffeine, but it was eventually getting to the point where I was, you know, writing checks that my body couldn't cash, and, you know, the burnout eventually hit hard, and it hit very quickly, and my health suffered accordingly. Pro tip, don't burn yourself out, it's not fun. Now, the one thing that really affected it was the fact that I was trying to continue an old upload schedule with much longer videos. I don't know if you've noticed, but I tend to do fairly long videos these days, but that wasn't always the case. When I first started this channel, my videos were a lot shorter, and that is because I've developed the double-edged sworded habit that is known as perfectionism. I always have been a bit of a perfectionist, but I didn't realize how much of my personality that actually was until I started doing this full time. And just as an example, I want to quickly pull up the details of the videos that I've made over the past couple of years, or just the thumbnails anyway, just to show you what I mean. So if we go over here, yes, we are now sharing the screen. I'm just going to move the chat over here. How many hours per week have you dedicated to the channel? At the moment, it's pretty much full-time hours. There was a while where I was tracking it, and I do need to start tracking it again just so that I know how productive I'm being. At its height, when I was first really getting into doing this full-time, when my upload schedule was a video every 4 days, I was probably putting something in the order of 50 to 60 hours a week into the channel, and that isn't even exaggerating. Obviously, that is an unsustainable workload, and I definitely don't do that anymore because I value my health and sanity. But I would say at the start of things, probably 2022, maybe going into 2023, those are the sort of hours I was putting in because I felt like I had to absolutely grind and grind and grind and work and, you know, build on the early success the channel had gotten, because I felt like that if I even slowed down a little bit, I would get punished by the algorithm for it, basically, because I was very new to this whole thing at the time. These days it's a lot more manageable. I'd say I probably put in like 40 to 50 hours a week. Sometimes less, sometimes more. It depends on what projects I'm working on and what other things I have going on in life outside of this. Because as much as as much as I joke to a lot of people that I let this sort of dictate my life, I really try not to, because at the end of the day, I want to work to live, not live to work. And as much as this is a job that I thoroughly love and enjoy, I don't want it to be the be-all and end-all of my life. There are other things I want to do outside of this as well. Anyway, back to the video topics. So yeah, the upload schedule is very different, because if you look at all the videos here, you know, the vast majority of them are over 30 minutes, or around the, you know, or just over 30 minutes. We've got, you know, the Maxim Gorky video was an hour long. This was the ANT9 video was a short video, only 22 minutes. The most recent one was a short video because I really wanted to do a short video for a change. But on the whole, most of the videos from the past couple of years are like, you know, half an hour to an hour long on average. Back when I started, if we scroll back to times of old, we've got a very different thing. Like, my first long video was the development of early Hawker aircraft, which was 40 minutes. But back then, the long videos were the exception to the, not the rule. You know, you have a 13-minute video, 12-minute video, 8-minute video, 15, 10, 16, 10, 12, 8, 11, 6, 8, 21, 10, 9, etc. Those videos I could do a quicker upload schedule on because they obviously take less work to do. All of my videos I research myself, and as the video gets longer, the research time exponentially goes up, because, you know, say if you're doing a 1 hour video on, say, something like the Vickers Wellington, which I did actually as two-parter. I think part 1 was 53 minutes. Yeah, there it is. So, like, you know, a 15-minute video on a Vickers Wellington will take far less than a 1 hour video on a Vickers Wellington. It, you know, it wouldn't be a case of it being 4 times less, because it's the quarter of the length. It'd probably be 8 or 10 times less, because the longer the video, the more in-depth the research is, and the more cross-checking I do with sources and other stuff in the background sort of builds up. So the longer the video, the more time it takes. And of course, trying to maintain you know, a video every 4 days schedule on videos that are like, you know, an hour long is completely unsustainable. And that was something I eventually realized, which is why the video schedule has dropped off dramatically. However, I still want to have a video schedule, which is why I'm now making tweaks to how things will be going on the channel moving forward. You want it to stay fun. Yes, exactly. I want it to stay fun. I want to enjoy it. I want to wake up every day being enthusiastic about what I do, which I am most of the time. You know, there are some days where I wake up and go, oh God, why did I do this? But those are few and far between. Like, most of the time, I thoroughly love, like, even when I was completely burnt out and broken, I was still loving what I do on the channel and talking about my favorite topics. It was just a case of I had to find moderation. So, getting back to the... Here, you can see the stream then. There we go. Anyway, getting back to this, I need to build more windows for this live stream, because this is not fun to track. Here we go. So, yes, I was trying to do too many long videos in too short a span of time, and combined with a full-time job that somewhat broke me. And the fact that I'm a perfectionist has also not helped with that either, which is the main reason why the video length has trended outward. With the older videos that were, you know, 15-minute long overviews, they were overview videos where I just basically covered the history of the aircraft in general. But these days, I find that more and more difficult to do because I've grown so fond of doing the longer videos, the deep dives, that sort of thing. I feel that if the video isn't long or covering an aircraft to a certain quality, I'm not achieving my potential with that video. Basically, I'm very much struggling to keep things on the short and sweet side, which for the most part people don't seem to mind because they love the deep dives. It's what I am becoming known for, especially for the more obscure planes. But from a workload perspective, gosh, I wish I could go back to just doing short overviews sometimes, but most of the time my brain will not let me do it. And speaking of the brain, that sort of takes me onto the other thing that sort of has affected the schedules and the uploading, well, not quality, but the uploading quantity of the channel, particularly over the past 18 months, is that my project management skills are not the best at the best of times, and they're catastrophic at the worst of times. Part of that is because I do have ADHD. Now, for the majority of my adult life, well, actually for the entirety of my adult life, I have essentially self-managed it without medication or things like that. And for the most part, that has been fine. Half the time, it's actually worked like a superpower because when I hyper-focus on something, I can just lock in, get something done. Brilliant. Like one of the best videos on the channel, the video on the Dornier DOX, you know, that was a 1 hour video, but I smashed out the researching, the scripting, the editing. I did all of that in a fortnight, which for a video of that quality for me was an insane achievement, and I was incredibly proud of myself. The flip side is, though, ADHD doesn't always work that way, and the main issue that I face is I find it often difficult to lock into a specific project, and I just bounce from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. As a kid, I went through so many different hobbies, it was just not even funny. My poor parents, the amount of different, like, uniforms they had to buy for me for various clubs and that I would get into, and then a month later I would just burn out on and never want to touch again. So yes, they had a fun child to raise, let's put it that way. But that does make things difficult when the work you do is, you know, it is essentially self-employment. What I do, you know, the buck stops with me. I have to do the work, I have to do the research, I hold myself to accountable. You know, I don't have a boss. So sometimes it works great, other times my brain is my worst enemy, and it's very difficult to just sit down and switch on and get things done in the time that I allot myself. You know, I have got a folder on the computer that I just call the folder of shame, and it's got probably 300 or 400, I shit you not, 300 or 400 unfinished research projects, video scripts, that sort of thing there. And half the videos that I've put out somewhat in the past 6 months, half of them have just been me pulling from that pile of old abandoned projects, reviving them, and actually just getting them out of the way. So that's been a challenge. However, you know, over the past year with the burnout and all the other stuff going on, I finally did something which I should have done years ago, which was actually seek out professional help. And so that is helping a lot. So hopefully that's in the future going to have far less of an impact on my work and my ability to get work done on time as compared to previously. It feels like most creators in this genre have the same issue, want to push as much information in a way that's entertaining, and end up making an hour-long video accidentally. Yes, exactly. The 1 hour long Maxim Gorky video was originally meant to be only 20 minutes long, if that, and, well, look what happened. Admittedly, that was because I spent, you know, the first 15.5 minutes of that video making the most ridiculous intro that I've ever done, which incidentally was one of the most fun things I've ever done. I see Anamaki and Asher in the chat here today. I don't smell, well, I do smell, but I smell beautiful. I have cologne, thank you. But yeah, yeah, perfectionism has been a demon that I've had to slay, and it's, well, it's not dead yet. It's a never-ending fight. The thing that doesn't help is the fact that I also have a giant book collection, and this is only a part of it. This is a small part of my book collection that I just keep out. But when I have this much information available to me and I don't put all of that information into a video, I feel like I haven't done a good enough job. But I've come to realize that my videos should be more than an overview, but not me literally just reading out an entire book. I'm trying to hit the middle ground where, you know, the video will give you a good, solid understanding of an aircraft or a topic. But if you want to really get into full nitty-gritty details like tables and that sort of thing, then you would go and seek out the various sources and books, that sort of thing. I don't really want to step over that line. We'll see how long that can stay that way. I'm pretty confident that I can keep a lid on it and stop the videos from getting too insane. I do have some very long videos planned, but that is more of a case of the topic is so broad and covers such a long period of time that the video was doomed to be long anyway. Now, what am I going to do to address this scheduling moving forward? Well, I have come up with a new video schedule, so I will pull that up on the screen here for everyone to see once it finishes loading. I keep losing the bloody YouTube chat. I wish there was a way that I could pin this to my screen, but there is unfortunately not. I'm definitely editing this in post. Where do you get all of the airplane images? So the airplane images in the background of the slideshow, these are just from my hard drive of photos that I use for the videos and stuff like that. I just took these off random ones. But I'm going to have a proper video schedule moving forward, and it's going to have a feature video, a bonus video, and we're going to have live streams. The feature video is a guarantee. Every weekend, a video will be going up on the channel. It's either going to be an overview, a deep dive, or it's going to be a special topic. And basically, a special topic is essentially, at the moment, anything that doesn't fall into the former two categories. But stuff like, you know, the top 10 ugliest French aircraft, or maybe a video that's discussing the development of a certain aeronautical thing. One thing that I'm going to start doing moving forward, I'm hoping to have the first video up either at the end of this month or next month. I'm going to do videos on aeronautical engineering topics, you know, stuff like the development of various aero engines, aerofoils, that sort of thing. Because I feel like that's something this channel was lacking, and it's an area that I wasn't into for the longest time, and it was sort of a late developing obsession / passion where I've really gotten into the nitty-gritty of how things were built and developed. Because for the longest time, my obsession with aviation history wasn't necessarily the aero engineering, it was more just the stories behind the aircraft, how they were built, why they were built, and the people behind them. I was more interested in, you could almost say, the human story behind the plane. It's only in more recent years, in the past 5, 6, maybe 7 years, that I've really gotten into the engineering side of things, and a lot of that was because I was rubbish at math as a kid, and I just didn't do well at math in high school either, and I never really found engineering appealing because I didn't understand the mathematics behind it. But thankfully it's something I've become a late bloomer in, and because of that I want to talk about those topics as well. But speaking of topic, let's stay on topic. So yes, there's going to be a feature video every weekend. Some weekends it'll go up on a Saturday, some it might go up on a Sunday. I just don't really want to commit to a specific day, just in case there's any last minute issues that need to be corrected before a video goes live. Bonus videos are going to be on Wednesdays. So the bonus video is either going to be a extra aircraft overview, and I'm also going to be trialing new formats of videos. So there's a new format that I want to do where it's sort of like, you could call it a glorified lecture in a way. Most of it's going to be done through like a PowerPoint presentation where I'm essentially going to be explaining something. I might call them Rex Explains or something. I haven't quite figured it out yet. But there's a couple that I want to do, and I thought the Wednesday slot would be a good way to trial that. And then we have live streams. Now, sometimes the live streams will go on the Wednesday slot as well. The timing of the live streams are going to be different each week because we're all on different time zones. I'm on the east coast of Australia, which isn't the most convenient time zone for a lot of people to tune into. I know some of you are staying up to a ridiculous hour to even tune in today, so thank you for that. But moving forward, live streams are going to be done at different times. So sometimes it's going to be me getting up at 3 a.m. to go live so that it's at a more convenient time for others. As much as I can, most of the streams are going to be advertised beforehand. So, I'll put it up on the channel a few days before I go live. There will be some impromptu live streaming happening as well. Now, all of the serious streaming is going to be done on YouTube, on the channel here, but I am also going to be doing some stuff on Twitch, some more fun, community-orientated stuff, because, as you might have figured, I'm a giant nerd. I mean, I've got D&D tattoos on my arm, for goodness sake. I'm going to be doing some more, like, fun community stuff, be it, games, board games, that sort of thing. That's going to be done on Twitch, mostly. I haven't figured out a specific plan for that yet, but I do have a Twitch account set up. So yeah, that's going to be a thing in the future as well. I feel like Rex's Lectures has a nice ring to it. Honestly, that's not a bad name. You could just call it Rex's Lectures. That could work. Now, the reduced schedule is obviously being done, A, to manage the workload, because, doing longer videos takes a lot longer, funnily enough. But I'm also doing it so I can build up a video backlog, which is something that I desperately need. I used to have a video backlog before the chaos of the past 2 years, and it was great. It's how I was able to maintain a regular schedule, because I had, 5 or 6 videos already finished in the pipeline, so that, if I got sick or if I had to go away and do something at last minute, there was still a video ready to go, and there would be no gap in the upload schedule. This is not the case at the moment. I currently have a backlog of video scripts, but I don't actually have a backlog of completed videos, so I need to get into the habit of building up a backlog again. Also, the lack of videos being uploaded has had another knock-on effect, and it's that my voice is out of training, in the sense that, I don't do voice classes or anything like that, although I probably should, but I don't have the vocal endurance that I had when I was doing this 2 years ago. My voice goes a lot quicker than it used to. So that's something else I sort of need to build up endurance in again. You have D&D, Drac has Warhammer. As an old DM, I support both. I was into Warhammer for a very long time. The main reason I stopped was it was a case of I had to choose between spending my money on Warhammer or spending my money on Airfix kits, and the Airfix kits won out. Also because there were some very, very good Warhammer 40k video games on PC that sort of scratched that grimdark itch for me, like the Total War, Total War is classic Warhammer, but you got stuff like Space Marine and Space Marine 2, and what's the other one? Battle Sector. Battle Sector's a lot of fun, so I kind of get my Warhammer fix from those instead. Rex reviews Aeronautica Imperialis when, that might not be a bad idea. That could be something fun to do on Twitch. Excuse me. Another thing that has affected video production, and I'm glad that I've got my notes in front of me because I was going to be rambling for far too long otherwise. Another thing that has affected video production is I'm in a new house. And when I say new, I mean it is new. I'm the first tenant occupying this place. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. It's brand new. It's mostly well insulated, which for Australian construction is a miracle. It has beautiful ducted air conditioning. However, when I moved in, I did not know that the adjacent block next to me, which was commercial before, and the forest that was behind me were both slated for major development, and now there is a massive suburb being built there, and there is a massive suburb being built there. And from 7 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. every single day, there is nothing but dump trucks, the beeping of trucks reversing, drills, cement trucks, yelling, the occasional explosion, for whatever reason, and God knows what other noises. And so it's basically made it impossible to record stuff during the day. And in fact, the only reason why we don't have beeping coming in on this live stream right now is it's currently pissing it down with rain outside, and they can't do any of their earthwork whilst that's happening because it will just turn into a giant quagmire. That has been a serious issue, to the point where I was on the verge of considering a break lease, because the noise, like, it's ridiculous. Like, I would show you some clips from my phone, but I haven't copied them onto the computer yet. But Some days it is, and also the worst thing is at the moment, because they're doing earthworks, they've got these big compacting rollers, these big rollers that go over the ground, and they sort of vibrate, and they seem to be vibrating at the resonant frequency of the house, which is unfortunate because it makes all of the windows rattle when they're going. And my poor neighbors, who are even closer to the construction works, they've actually had cracks form in one of their walls because of this. So they're actually in a bit of a slogging match with their real estate and with the development company that's building over there, because they've actually suffered damage to their rental because of that, which has caused all sorts of fun issues. Thankfully, I've not had anything here yet, although I won't be surprised if something goes wrong eventually. But anyway, back on topic, that has also affected my ability to record things, because it means I'm limited to recording stuff at night. And by the end of the day, depending on how busy my day has been, I'm already pretty tired, which means my voice is tired. And sometimes my voice will go very quickly in the evening, especially if I'm recording a longer video. I of course record my videos in blocks. You know, if a 1 hour video is usually about 2 to 2.5 hours of recording time, because I'll do things in multiple takes. I'll try certain lines in different ways to see how it comes out, because sometimes I'll write a script which I think looks really good, but then it's actually really difficult to read as a narrator. So that's a skill that I've been learning, and that is how to write a script that is easier to narrate as opposed to being just one that's easier to read. Because something that's easy to read isn't necessarily easy to speak. So yeah, that's been a fun challenge. But yeah, yeah, it does sound like a brewing lawsuit with the neighbors. Honestly, I'm surprised that worse hasn't happened yet. But apparently most of the loudest stuff is nearly done. Like most of the major earthworks is done, so that'll be fine. But that noise is just going to be replaced by the noise of power tools and things like that, as an entire suburb of houses and townhouses gets thrown up over the next 12 to 18 months. So yeah, I don't know how well that's going to go. The room is fairly soundproof. The main issue I have is the window, which is in front of me, is essentially facing where a lot of the current construction is happening. And obviously windows windows aren't very soundproof. So we'll see. Are we going to get a part 2 of the Devastator / Mosquito videos, or has the chaos of... Yes, so those 2 videos, actually, are in my pile of improvements that I want to do. Those 2 videos are honestly going to be redone from scratch, because I wasn't happy with either of them. Those videos were made at the height of the chaos, and I essentially rushed them because I had to. Because there literally hadn't been any major videos for a while, and 2, with those videos, I had actually signed up with sponsors on those 2 videos, which I'd agreed to months beforehand, and I couldn't really back out of them, so I just had to do the videos regardless. Those are going to get redone as longer videos instead of like a part 1 and a part 2. It's just going to be a full deep dive. So the Devastator video and the Mozzie video are probably going to be 2 hours long each. Hopefully not longer than that, because then that is sort of, pushing it. But yeah, they're on my major to-do list for this year. So hopefully they'll get done before Christmas. But I'm not going to make any promises, because when it comes to the deep dive videos, they are my babies. They're the videos that I put the absolute most effort into. They involve a lot of research. They involve a lot of checking, a lot of book scanning, and God knows what else. And it's a case of, with those ones, they'll get done when they get done, but they are in progress. There's a couple of other deep dives in the works as well, which do have a priority over them, because they are ones that the Patreons voted on. Admittedly, one of them they voted on over a year ago, but their wishes are finally getting adhered to. But yes, anyway, back on topic. That is the video schedule moving forward. So feature video, bonus video, live streams thrown into the mix as well on both YouTube and Twitch. So, what other changes are afoot? Well, quite a few things are sort of going to get trialed. Next year, well, this year and for the next 12 months, there's going to be more testing of 3D assets being used in the videos, as you would have seen in some of the more recent stuff. I've been using 3D models of aircraft and some 3D environments. This is not going to take over the entire video. It's not going to be like how you've got some channels like Mustard or Found and Explained where the whole thing is 3D. I don't have the time nor the inclination to do that. I want the 3D stuff to be sort of window dressing on top of the main feature. My thing when I first started doing these videos is I wanted the videos to be something that people could listen to, almost like a podcast. And if you were also watching it, what you saw on the screen was a bonus, not necessarily something you absolutely had to see. Moving forward, some videos will stray from that a little bit because some things I do need to talk about visuals and what you can see for stuff to make sense. But on the whole, stuff like aircraft overviews and deep dives, I want to keep to that same standard as before, where you could listen to the video and more or less understand what I'm talking about, and if you're watching it, you just get bonus content with that. However, part of that bonus content is going to be more 3D visuals, especially for aircraft where there aren't a lot of photos, or aircraft that are particularly unique. Like, for example, like what you see on the screen here, the SC200 Amphitrite, that was a 3D model that I absolutely needed to use, because there weren't that many good photos of that flying boat in profile. And having the 3D visualization of it really helped add some additional quality and context to the video, at least in my opinion, anyway. Been using your videos mostly as podcasts. Yeah, exactly. See, and I don't want that to change. Yeah, the 3D stuff is a bonus. Exactly, Copper. Whatever you make, I'll fall asleep or wake up to, and that really is it is. And you know, it's weird because like it's weird hearing that because like, you know, I have YouTubers that I watch and listen to like to fall asleep, you know, because it's just it's nice, you know. It's either that or it's a David Attenborough documentary. And the fact that my videos do the same thing now, I still get imposter syndrome for it because I still think of, you know, what I do as being quite a small, modest channel. But then I, you know, log on to YouTube Studio and it's like, oh yeah, you know, you've got 230,000 subscribers and you get a few million views a month. And I'm like, yeah, no, that is no longer small, is it? It's really not. And just thinking of the numbers is always quite scary because, you know, I'll get a video that has, you know, 100,000 views. That is 100,000 people that have chosen to click on that video and watch it, usually all the way through. And you know, that's more than what you can fit into a football stadium. Like that's a lot of people that just listen to what are essentially glorified lectures. So yeah, that's still something I'm processing even after doing this full time for nearly 4 years. But yes, the 3D stuff is going to be tested a bit more over the next 12 months, which is why I'm in the process of bringing someone on board to help me with that. Because it is a time-consuming and expensive process, and if I can at least make it less time-consuming and possibly a little bit more expensive, it might still be a trade-off. Ultimately, it's got to come down to the point of, you know, does it add enough to the videos to justify the expense? So I've got to do some number crunching over the next 12 months, you know, see how it affects video earnings, see how many people like or dislike the 3D stuff. At the moment, all of the 3D models have been static, but we are working on some animations as well. That is a lot more time consuming, but it might add some additional quality to videos that would really help. Particularly if we're covering certain events like, you know, a historic flight or a disappearance or an accident, something like that. The thing that's really going to decide that for the long term is how complicated it's going to be to do certain animations like, you know, explosions, crashes, making models break apart, because obviously a lot of these models are fixed assets. They're not designed with this sort of animation in mind, and so you essentially have to break and rebuild a 3D model to do this sort of thing. Thankfully, I'm somewhat experienced in this because I actually have a degree in game design, but my speciality was in software programming and encoding, so animation and 3D stuff was sort of a secondary skill that I learned, which is why I want to bring on someone that's a bit more qualified than me. Now, what other changes are afoot aside from the 3D stuff? Well, I have some travels lined up, and this is mostly for next year, but also for the year after that. So trips to the United States, the UK, and Europe are planned, but none of them are locked in yet. We are in the planning stage. The US trip, admittedly, has been in the planning stage for about 2 years, but things keep getting in the way. They're planned, they're not locked in. More will be certain by around Christmas time, which is when I'm going to be doing the proper flight booking, budgeting, that sort of thing. It's all going to depend on timing, dates for certain events, money, and the world not ending, because yeah, the world's in an interesting state right now. That's obviously going to influence travel plans as well. But as it stands, USA, Europe, and the UK are on the list. I have some smaller trips planned as well, mostly as like little holidays, but I'm also going to try and squeeze work-related stuff in with that as well. You know, I might hopefully be going to New Zealand next year, so I might do some museum visits there. And I've also been doing stuff locally within Australia with other museums as well. I actually volunteer at a museum near me, but I've also been doing visits to places in Melbourne, in central Queensland. You know, I'm planning to do some stuff at the Qantas Museum. I'm going up to the Tank Museum up in Cairns, the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum for Oz Armour Fest at the end of this month, which is going to be a lot of fun. So there will be some non-plane related content going up just from my adventures up there, because as much as I love to talk about planes, I have a fascination with vehicles, planes, and ships in general. It just so happens that for the longest time, and I would say still, the thing that piques my interest the most are planes, things that fly. But a close second is definitely armored vehicles, I would say. But yeah, if the world ends, you probably won't get your airfare back. I probably won't. If you come up to Oshkosh, I'll buy you a beer. Yes, Oshkosh is definitely one of the big things that I want to do. I did have plans to go to Oshkosh the year before last, but they fell through. That was the year where I was in the UK and I attended the Royal Air Tattoo, and the plan was to do the UK RIAT and then go to the States and do Oshkosh, but that all fell through due to money and other scheduling conflicts, unfortunately. But yes, so there are trips planned. Nothing is locked in yet. There will be many museum visits. I'm making contacts and I'm putting out feelers and organizing a few things. So stay tuned for more of that in the future. That's all I can say at the moment, because a lot of it isn't locked in. A lot of it is still very hypothetical. It's all looking very expensive, but thankfully I can write off most of it as a business expense, thankfully. But it's also very exciting, and I'm hoping to tick off a few big items that I've wanted to cover on the channel, because there are certain aircraft that I really want to cover, but I want to include footage of me sitting in and walking around said plane in the first place. And as much as I love living down here in Australia, our collection of aircraft down here isn't the biggest. We have a fine tank collection up in Cairns, but when it comes to certain aircraft that I really want to cover, we just don't have as many. Imagine Rex and MAH in one place. Well, we were actually together at RIAT in 2023. So I went there with him and Drakini fell. That was a lot of fun. Didn't have any footage of us from that because unfortunately one of my SD cards disappeared, which wasn't good. I think I lost it in one of my stopovers. I accidentally left it somewhere. So someone in Singapore or in Paris or something now has a SD card full of airshow photos, which sucks for me, but probably great for them. Either that or it just got lost in a bin or a drain or got thrown out somewhere, which was unfortunate. Have you considered getting a cat? I love cats, however, I'm allergic. So unless you can find a cat that doesn't trigger my allergies and turn me into a sniffling, sneezing monstrosity, there's going to be no cat, which is a shame. Because, yeah, no, I love cats. Like, I've had cats before, but as I've gotten older, my allergies have gotten worse, and it just gets to the point now where it's utterly intolerable, which sucks. All right, back to my agenda. So travels, yada 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 yada. Okay, so yes. So aside from the 3D stuff and the travels, there is another change afoot, and that is going to be obviously the live streaming. But there's also going to be a visual change in the channel. I don't like to call it a rebranding because God, that sounds corporate. But due to something which is affecting everyone on the platform, there are going to be some slight tweaks to the visuals or how basically this channel was presented. And that is because of the AI problem. Oh boy, this is a fun topic, and this is a topic that makes my blood boil very easily, so I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can. Um, I want to do more live streams on the channel because I want to get better at doing live streams, and I think it's great that I can interact with the audience. But another reason, another benefit of doing live streams is it puts me, a human, at the forefront of this channel, and thus the YouTube algorithm, whatever eldritch demon that controls it, knows that I am not an AI generated slop fest. In the past 12 to 18 months, there has been a flood of AI crap on YouTube, and that has caused issues for both YouTube itself and creators on the platform. Not only is the content like, low quality, it's, well, mostly low quality, like 98% low quality, and it's often plagiarized information, but it's sometimes completely factually incorrect, and it's skewing the way the algorithm performs and recommends channels. Like, Google and YouTube are in a difficult spot because, on the one hand, Google is supporting AI with training it for its notebook LM software and that sort of thing. But on the other hand, AI is becoming a real problem for YouTube because you are now getting so much AI generated content on YouTube that it is, instead of being known as YouTube, it should be called BotTube, basically. And that is obviously something that, Google ultimately doesn't want for the platform, because ultimately, they want people, because people are going to be what generates money. Because another thing that affects YouTube and its success is stuff like ad revenue, and advertisers want their products to be advertised by real people, not machines. It makes a big difference. So YouTube's algorithm is now heavily favoring channels that are clearly fronted by humans. And so for a lot of history channels, because, there are a lot of channels across the board, but I've noticed for history and educational content in particular, there are a lot of what we call faceless channels where, the voice is what you hear. You don't see the face, it's, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at nature documentaries on TV and Netflix, that sort of thing. Most of the time, you don't see the presenter. Most of the time, you just have David Attenborough's voice floating with his dulcet tones, whilst you've got beautiful shots of the scenery and wildlife and seals being disemboweled by a polar bear or something like that, to wonderful, inspiring music. But now, with the prevalence of AI on YouTube, that isn't enough anymore. It wants to know that you are a genuine human being and not just some thing generated by ChatGPT. And, just look at the thumbnails. It speaks for itself. The main thing is YouTube wants to know that it's giving quality to its viewers. And as you can see from the slide here that I'm showing you, that is the sort of thing that we're fighting with. I mean, the plane on the left, I don't even know what that is. It's got bits of a Thunderbolt. It's got what looks to be a bit of a Spitfire wing, but with an American roundel on it. And it's on fire in ways that it shouldn't be. The other thumbnail we've got here is actually, I'm just going to bring up the PowerPoint presentation myself so I can actually use my oh god, no, previous. I want to use my pen. Like, nope, go back, you bastard. Excuse me. Pen. Okay, pen. What's this? What is that? Is that like a cold fusion reactor in the center of what is meant to look like a P-51 Mustang? Like, I'm so confused. It looks like it's some sort of like power coil or something that's sitting right underneath the cockpit. You know, where is the pilot's body meant to go? How is that in any way, shape, or form acceptable? I don't know, like, it's... Yeah, this is the shit that we're having to deal with. Hang on, let me just bring the chat back up so I can actually see what you're saying. Yeah, that's the crap that we're having to deal with, right? It's a drill, clearly. Yeah, exactly. And the other issue that's really it hasn't been as much of an issue recently, admittedly, but for the past 2 years, not only do you have you know, AI generated content that is factually incorrect or clickbaity, or is just in general poor quality, because the narration on some of these videos is just dog shit, pardon my French. But you've also got channels that straight up steal other people's content. Like, this is a screen grab from about a year ago, but this is a channel that basically took my videos, downloaded them, and re-uploaded them in a different language, and even stole my thumbnails. Like, all of the thumbnails highlighted there are mine, and they weren't just stealing my content. They were stealing contents from Not a Pound from Air to Ground. I hope you learned something new. A couple of videos from Greg's Airplane and Automobiles were on there. Like, that's just one example, and I think it isn't as bad now, but the worst period was 2023 to 2024. And I logged every single copyright claim that I put in. And in an 18-month period, I logged 798 copyright claims for videos that were either direct copies of my stuff or were taking huge clips or the thumbnails and using them for their own content. You know, nearly 800 cases of that in an 18-month period. You know, that, yeah, just absolutely infuriating. And, like, you know, I seem very calm because I'm, you know, it's in the past, it's done, and, you know, the initial wave of violation and anger has passed. But, you know, this is the other thing we're having to fight with all the time. So, you know, the AI thing isn't just, you know, people getting misinformation or low quality stuff. It's also humans having their stuff stolen and repurposed so that other people can get gain from it, basically. Yeah, it's disgraceful. It's disgusting. I hate it. I have a violent hatred of generative AI being used in this way. Like, you know, AI is here to stay. Like, the genie is out of the bottle. Like, no one is putting that thing back in. And in some ways, it's going to be a boon for civilization. But unfortunately, because we are all human beings, I just know that AI is going to be used in so many ways that are going to be a net detractor for us as a society. And, you know, this is just one of those instances. You know, in other ways, AI is going to be a great tool. Like, you know, I use it for certain things, especially if I'm cross-checking sources. I have found that I make a lot less mistakes now after I do it, and then I plug all the same details into Google's Notebook LLM. So I'll, like, stick a bunch of sources in, and I'll go, okay, this is the conclusion I've drawn based on these conflicting sources. Do you agree? And it will either say yes or no. And if it says no, it says why. And then I check that response back with the sources, and I go, hey, actually, yeah, no, that is right. And so far, it hasn't steered me wrong. You know, unlike other AI software, like stuff like, you know, ChatGPT and that sort of stuff. The main issue with AI is it is only as good as the information you feed it. So a lot of these channels that have, like, AI generated scripts, half the time the AI is either scraping Wikipedia articles or random websites, and half the time the information on those isn't always accurate. And even if it is accurate, sometimes the AI gives you the wrong information anyway. You know, I was watching a stream a while ago where someone was basically showing how unreliable, you know, ChatGPT was for people who were trying to, you know, get into YouTube and stuff, and people are like, oh, you know, I can just do all my scripts in ChatGPT and stuff. It's like, yeah, if you want bullshit that isn't factual in any way. I mean, if you're doing content that isn't necessarily educational, it might be more useful. But when one of the things that you're most known for is factual research, it's the last thing you want to rely on. So, you know, All my research is done by me, and I just use AI as a tool to just make sure that certain points or discrepancies are resolved. I also just sometimes feed my script into the system and just be like, do you think the pacing is right, or have I put things in the right order? Because the way that I research things compared to the video that comes out at the end is very different. So sometimes I'll research things not in chronological order. I'll research things based on the topic within the video, and that can sometimes skew the chronology of the video script. So sometimes I get help with that as well. But these days I use a big template master sheet that I have in Microsoft Word. So most of the time I just follow that to make sure that my videos are sort of somewhat concise and uniform, but not identical, just so that there's no real chaos in the way it's presented. AI ain't touching your cadence. Exactly. The text will flow, but word salad is very common. Yeah, word salad. Exactly. That is a great way. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. AI should be used as a support mechanism only. It should not be used to generate things. It shouldn't be used to, pop out entire scripts. Use it as a tool. Like, use it to help you be more efficient at your task, not to take your task for you. When I was growing up, I thought AI was going to be something that would free up everyone's time so that we can focus on things that we want to do, our passions, arts, projects, to be more productive at things. And instead, AI is just taking people's jobs, and we're still stuck in the same shitty cycle. It's like, it's the old joke of, I wanted robots to do the menial tasks so I could focus on my art, and instead it's robots doing my art so that I'm forced to keep working on menial tasks. Luckily I'm not in that situation because I am self-employed with what I do, but a lot of other people are not in a fun situation with it. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic. So the reason why I wanted to talk about the AI and stuff is that is forcing me to essentially slightly rebrand the channel and sort of put my face on things a bit more. A lot of the videos, you're still not going to see my face for a large quantity of the time because I want people to see the images of the planes, and, I don't want to change things too much, but there will be some changes because there needs to be, so that the algorithm keeps being happy. Because, for the past 12 months, me and many other creators in this niche who I know and am friends with many, we've all experienced issues with videos underperforming, and a lot of it, we have been told, has been because of the AI slop essentially saturating the various niches, be it, aviation history, education, naval history, you name it, it has invaded everything. And so we need to fight back and basically show, hey, we're not a robot, we're a human presenting well-researched work. Listen to us instead, because we're actually going to tell you something that's factual and not something that's just garbled Wikipedia, basically. Would ad reads be a good chance to show your face? Yes, actually, that's a really good point to mention, and I don't like talking about the money making side of YouTube because I just don't like talking about that stuff. I like focusing on just being academic and talking about plain facts. But the fact of the matter is, this is my full-time gig. This is what pays my bills and allows me to eat and not starve. And I reinvest a lot of that money back into the channel, which is why I've got an insane book collection, which is in the thousands now. And I ran the numbers with my accountant last year, and he was astonished at how much I'd spent on books over the past 10 years, even before I did YouTube. But the fact that I'm essentially getting a bit of return on that investment now is great. But yes, obviously a lot of YouTubers these days, creators on the platform, have sponsors, segments, and stuff like that. Not everyone does it. It's a personal choice. I don't take a lot of sponsors. Like, I'm pretty picky with who I go with. Like, there are some that I've cut ties with in the past, and there are some that most of the ones are ones that I've agreed to because I've either A, used their product already, or I know someone who has. Like, for example, REC watches. Like, I've done a couple of integrations with them, and, my Spitfire watch is still going strong. I wear it every single day. This thing has survived tropical hurricanes. It's survived all sorts of things, It's a good watch. But, yeah, obviously, sponsors want you to be a human, not an AI. So, you know, yeah, faceless channels have really suffered in that space. You know, in the past 18 months, there has been a huge decline in faceless channels getting offers for ad partnerships and that sort of thing, because advertisers and companies only want to work with someone who has their face in their videos as well. So yeah, that is another consideration that I have had to take into account. It's not one that I've taken into account lightly, because surprise, surprise, I'm quite a private and introverted person, if you know me outside of this, and I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm camera shy. I would like to call camera averse. I think that's a more professional way of putting it. But again, I'm adapting. You know, you either adapt or you don't, and you don't succeed. You know, adapt or starve, or whatever the old saying is. But yes, that is something else I've had to take it into consideration. Your Spitfire watch is doing better in the Pacific than the actual Spitfire. Exactly, exactly. Brag about your book collection. I shall. I'm definitely going to be doing some book reviews as well. I'm going to be bringing out, you know, my recommendations for various topics. Because I think Drakinifel did a couple of videos, you know, where he recommended his nautical books. In fact, he did, because I've bought some of the books he's recommended, because my book collection doesn't just include aviation. I've got stuff on naval history, because I'm actually a big fan of the Age of Sail. A lot of my favorite books are set in the Age of Sail, like the Hornblower series, the Aubrey Maturin series. So I've got a lot of nautical books as well. So I'll probably talk about them as well. But yes. Anyway, getting right back on topic, because I've wandered off course again. Yes, so you're going to be seeing a bit more of my face on the channel. And another thing that's probably going to change is I'm heavily considering a slight rebrand of the channel on a whole. I'm just waiting for this bloody thing to finish loading. So there's probably, I haven't completely locked it in, and I'm going to be putting this to the audience as well. There's a fairly high chance that the channel icon / avatar is going to change, because as much as I love the Spitfire, and it's, you know, it's been my logo for a couple of years, and, you know, I love it so much that I actually have it tattooed on my inner forearm there. Again, it's the mark of a faceless channel, and I want to add a bit more of a human touch and a bit more of a me touch into it. So for the past 12 months, I've been speaking with various artists about getting different avatars drawn up, background images, that sort of thing. And for the time being, I've settled on one which I want to use. It was a very tough call. And in later live streams, I'm going to be showing off all the different artworks that I've had sent to me, because they're going to be used in different live streams for different things, within Discord, events, even on some merchandise, that sort of thing. But for the moment, the main avatar that I'm happy with using, and I've already started using it on my Discord, is, when it loads up, is this one, because I like it because it keeps the Spitfire as sort of a part of the theme, although it's more in the background, and it's a style that I like. The color palette is, I wouldn't say it's similar, but like you know, you've kind of still got the sort of brownish tones in it, but you've also got the blue sky background and everything. I'm failing at words, as you can tell today. This is why I need to do more live streams, because my ability to actually speak to other people and not just into a microphone from a script needs a lot of work. But that's the main avatar that I'm looking at switching to. I've already done this on my Discord server, and just for Discord in general, because I just like having a face instead of a plane. But I'm probably going to implement this change on YouTube as well, and on the Twitch stream, because I want to keep things uniform. I don't want to have one icon for one thing and a different icon for something else. I want it to be recognizable. And in the grand scheme of things, you know, most channels do go through an icon change or two. You know, a lot of the people I've followed over the years have gone through several changes, and I think this is just another step in that evolution. Hopefully it's going to be one that sticks around for a bit longer, because I think my previous icon, the first icon I had for about 2 years, and then I went to this slightly more improved icon, which is the YouTube icon currently. And yeah, I think this is what I'm going to go with moving forward. Ironically, given his focus on older planes, Rex of the Super Hornet. You say that, but I am also going to be covering jets and stuff in the future as well. That is the other big change that's going to be coming to the channel. Because my original plan when I started doing this is I wanted to cover all of the planes I wanted to cover in chronological order. I've come to realize that if I carried on with that plan, I was never going to get it all done in my lifetime. There was just no way in heck. So I'm having to cherry pick my topics a bit now, and I'm sticking to ones that, I obviously really want to cover. But I'm also picking a couple of topics that I just think are going to perform well as well, so that, the channel stays relevant on this platform that is forever changing. And one thing that I really want to do, starting this year, is focusing on jets. And we're obviously going to start with the pioneering stuff, we're going to look at jet engine development, and then I'm going to branch out into other stuff. I'm not going... I know I've been teasing it for years, but it's actually happening now. Shush. I am limiting myself to basically jets, essentially in the pre-digital era. So I'm not really going to cover anything that is sort of where development starts after 1970-ish. There's going to be some exceptions, but on the whole, my obsession is with the early to mid-Cold War period of aviation, in the same way that my obsession when it comes to piston engine aircraft is in the interwar years, because the interwar years, and then like the late 1940s to the late 1960s, I would say, a two period, like those two 20-year periods, planes are built and developed and built, and then the moment they fly, they're already obsolete because the next good thing has already come along because the technology was advancing so rapidly. And those periods of rapid development generated so many unique and interesting designs. And those are the two periods I really want to focus on. So we're going to keep doing like the interwar and the World War II stuff, but then we're also going to be pushing into early to mid Cold War. There's also going to be some interwar stuff, like some World War I aviation focus, because I do eventually want to go back to my long abandoned video series on World War I aviation, which was the first video series I ever did on this channel. I stopped it 3 years ago because I wasn't happy with it, and I realized it needed to be longer than 15-minute videos. That is one of the big abandoned projects on my computer. It's about 60 or 80,000 words of script now, which is a few hours of video. I need to do the math and figure it out, actually. But yes, there will be there will be jets coming to the channel as well. Will there be a change in the channel name? Probably not. I think I'm going to stick with Rex's Hangar. I can't think of anything that's better. And at this point, the name is stuck. That's what I'm known as. It's what the channel's known as. It's what what pops up when you Google things. I think a name change is too much. I just think changing the icon should be good enough. Excuse me, my voice is now starting to go. Fantastic. But yeah, there's going to be a few changes coming to the channel. Hopefully nothing too dramatic, and moving forward, there's going to be a lot more live stream shenanigans, especially once I've sort of figured out a schedule and topics that I want to cover, because there are a lot and I need to narrow them down. Rex's Radar, it's not a bad one. But I honestly think Rex's Hangar is going to stick, though. There are some also secondary projects in the work, which they're not specifically on aviation topics, but they're videos I want to do. And for that, oh my god, my voice really is going. You see, this is why I can't do long videos anymore. Anyway, before I completely lose my voice, there are some other videos that I want to do that are non-aviation related, which I will probably put on a second channel. I haven't fully committed to that yet. It's also what I'm thinking about doing with the live streams. It's like, do I upload the VODs onto YouTube, like the recorded version of the live stream, or do I just leave them all in the one place? I think I need to think about that, and obviously, your feedback will be taken into consideration as well. You will need to know that my cat just pooped on my finger. Just booped my finger. Oh, I wish I had a cat, but I'm so allergic to them. Ugh, makes me sad. Rex's Radar would be Rex's mythical alt account, where he only does modern planes. That's not a bad idea. But yeah, no, I think Rex's hangar is gonna stick. But before I wrap things up, any questions related to any of this? I'll do general Q&A stuff on aviation in another live stream, but like any questions specifically related to the topics that I've discussed today that you want to quickly talk about now? The debrief, or something like Rex's debriefs. That could be something. Yeah, I don't know. Like, part of me wants to keep everything on the one channel, and part of me wants to, have a bit of separation. I think more thinking will be required. When's the next live stream, and what will it be about? I'm probably gonna do the next live stream next Wednesday. I might do it on the same time, or I might do it a bit earlier on so I can catch more of the people in Europe in their evening. As for the topic, it is to be determined. I'm still sorting out what I specifically want to cover in what order. I think the next live stream is probably going to be either a discussion on jet engines, or it's going to be a bit of behind the scenes stuff, talking about books, and also running through what goes into doing the small 3D animation clips that you've been seeing. Because for a small amount of media you get from that, actually a lot of work goes into it. And I sort of want to explain to people why I'm not going to put 3D for everything in these videos, because it's just going to be impossible. Yes. I'd keep the channel name, but some of these ideas might work for types of videos or miniseries. Exactly. Generally, what do you think the ratio between more modern jets and more modern classic style and your more classic style of props? I think for the time being, it's still going to be more piston engine planes versus jets. I think next year it's probably going to be more of a 50-50 split. I need to really get into the habit of planning things out a bit more, because again, for the past 2 years, because of all the chaos in my life, it's all been very ad hoc, and things have sort of come out in the way that they come out. I still have my famous list, which is a giant Excel spreadsheet of everything I want to talk about, which, if I continue at an upload rate of one video a week, will take me 348 years to complete, so I'm not going to run out of video material anytime soon. But yeah, there's definitely some more planning that needs to be done. I definitely don't want to favor either side if I can, so which is why I sort of want to go for a closer to a 50-50 split, but also various aircraft will take precedence over others. Like, for example, I want and need to cover some of the more big ticket World War II planes, like, the Hawker Hurricane, the Spitfire, the Mustang, of course, that sort of thing. They're all planned. Like, the research on all of them is already underway. They're all going to be quite long videos. Some of them are on hold until I get visits at certain museums, so I can talk about some of them in person as well, though. So, but those are all in the works. So, because people have asked me in the past, are you only doing obscure stuff, or are you also going to do the big ticket planes from World War II that everyone knows? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, but there's already quite a few videos and documentaries out on that already, and I just don't want to be parroting the same thing, so I want to find a different approach, if I can, to cover those very famous aircraft. And of course, because I like to do things in detail, with an aircraft that has a service history as broad as the Spitfire, it's going to be a lot of research and a very long video at the end. Do talk about the significance of high bypass turbofans versus the earlier low bypass and pure. Yes, that is something that's going to be spoken about in one of the earlier sort of lectures that I want to do, and that is the different type, piston engine versus jets, and also the different types. I'll talk about your radials versus rotaries for piston engines, your inlines. I'm going to be talking about your different types of early jets versus modern jets, so that's all going to be discussed in a video that I want to do. I'm trying to think of someone to compare to that might explain the sort of format that I'm trying to go for. Think of, when Scott Manley does his videos where he explains how certain things work, or how certain space missions are carried out. Usually when he's talking about something that's already happened. those sort of videos where it's kind of half, half him talking kind of like lecture style, with PowerPoint slides. Maybe there's some video footage from, publicly available sources. That's the sort of thing I'm aiming for when it comes to these sort of more Rex Explains lecture videos. So that's kind of the tone I want to strike. How successful I'm going to be at doing that is yet to be determined, but hopefully I do well, because I would like to talk about some of those topics in a more sort of interactive live stream format. Some of them will be pre-recorded and then uploaded, depending on the complexity of the topic and how much I want to stay on topic and not ramble. But all of that is in the future and still in the planning phase. I just sort of wanted to let everyone know today what those plans were, and let you know that things are in the pipe, and that, the chaos is coming to an end, and moving forward things should be a lot more organized. The only major commitment that I'm doing for the time being is there are going to be, at least one video every week on the weekend. It could be a long one, it could be a short one, but regardless, come rain, shine, so long as I'm still alive, living, and breathing on this celestial plane, a video of some sort will go up on a weekend, and then anything else for the time being is a bonus. Later on, I will commit to a more solid live stream schedule as well, once I figure out the amount of work each live stream takes, how long it's going to take, that sort of thing. Rexpertise. I like that. Rexplaining. Rexplaining, Rexpertise. I like that. Any more deep dives into manufacturer histories? Yes, the Curtis one, because a lot of people have been asking, where's part 2 of the history of Curtis video? There's a reason why part 2 and part 3 and part 4 and part 5 hasn't come out. It's because I'm combining them all into one single video. I wasn't satisfied with some of the scripts and the pacing, and so I've essentially taken them, gutted them, and I'm recompiling them into just one single take. So it's probably going to be something on the lines of the same sort of length as the full history of Douglas video, which is about 3 hours long. That is currently in progress. And the main thing that's holding that up at the moment is I'm trying to source some archival footage and some images for certain topics from Curtis for the interwar section of the video. But that is the main one that is on the to-do list when it comes to aircraft manufacturers as well. I've started doing one on Boeing. The issue that I've run into with that is getting stuff from their archives is turning out to be a nightmare. And I'm also tentatively working on a manufacturing history video for Hawker. At least the early ones, when it comes to the post-war consolidations and, BAE and everything forming, that's going to be its own separate video as well. What other questions did I miss? Any chance of expanding to helicopters? Yes, rotorcraft are definitely on the planning cards. Yeah, that's the word I want to use. I will admit that I keep putting them off just because there's just so many, if I start covering helicopters as well, that just adds a whole massive pile of potential videos to do. But I definitely want to cover some of the pioneering stuff, the auto gyros, and I want to cover various helicopters that I have a soft spot for, like the Westland Wessex, the Mi-8, that sort of thing. So yeah, I do eventually want to get to them as well. Are you still condensing your seasons into one video? Yes, I actually need to do the next one at the moment. That is on the to-do list. Sometimes they perform well, sometimes they don't. It's just, I started doing the seasons because some people were having issues with YouTube playlists, and someone specifically emailed me about it and said, would you possibly consider sticking all of your videos into just a single long video? And I said, why not? Let's just do that. And then the first one I did got 1 million views, and I was like, okay, fair enough, that works. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. But yes, no, there is another season video in the works, and I'll probably throw that up this month or next month. I don't like to release them too close to each other because it just feels like I'm spamming you otherwise. But the next one is planned. Okay. A series on airports and air bases. That is also something that I started working on and then promptly abandoned in a moment of ADHD fuel rage. Yeah, I was doing a series that covered aerodromes, specifically ones in the UK and Australia because they're the ones I have the most knowledge on. So I might revive that series at some point and do that as well. Because some of them have got some really interesting stories behind them as well. The ones that, obviously no longer exist, and also there are some that still operate today. Have you delved into Australian naval aviation and the history of terriers? I'm delving into Australian maritime and aviation history in general because one of the things I want to put a bit of a focus on over the next couple of years, especially now that I also volunteer at the museum down here, is shedding some more light on Australian aviation and what was done down here in terms of aircraft being developed, and also the Royal Australian Air Force during the Second World War in particular, and its exploits in the Pacific. So that again, that is another thing I want to cover. You're probably noticing a theme here. There's a lot of things I want to cover, and there's only so many hours in the day in which to cover them with. With every U.S. Air Force base, it's like, who was this base named after, and how did he die? You're not you're not wrong, and unfortunately. Um, Rex's voodoo. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. You see, you guys have got better ideas than me. But yeah, so that's sort of the plan moving forward is we're going to have a slight rebranding of the channel. I'm going to try and get the video schedule back on track. Some things are staying the same, some things are changing. I'm going to continue doing deep dives, and I'm going to push ahead with doing more live streams because everyone here seems to be enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, even though my voice box is weeping as I speak. But I am going to wrap things up now because we've been going for an hour and a half, and I had only planned this to be an hour, so I'm only 30 minutes over as it is. Rex After Dark. We could do like ASMR readings of like public domain aviation books because I've actually got like a bunch of like books on aircraft that were published more than 100 years ago that are in the public domain. We could do something like that. That could be entertaining actually. I don't know how good I'd be doing at ASMR reading, but there's only one way to find out. But yes, anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope this sort of clears up a few things. And what I'm going to do, here, let me go back to the studio. Okay, what I'm going to do, once this stream is finished, I'll compile this and also upload this as a video to the YouTube channel as well, because that's what I'm always going to do. So all the major live streams, unless it's just a small one, they're always going to get re-uploaded onto YouTube after the fact. Just so that, if you've missed it because of your time zone, you're not going to miss out on stuff. The only thing I need to figure out is how to get the chat to show up in the upload as well. But I'll figure that out. That's a fun technical challenge, which of course will definitely not result in any swearing. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching.